My name's Chris Littlewood. I'm a tutor on the music production sound engineering course here at dBs Music, and I also do some Pro Tools training here as well. The company was originally set up down in Plymouth around about 10-15 years ago. I think one of the big motivations that led our managing director to set up dBs was the frustration at the lack of real quality equipment in a lot of the music production courses. So they actually started where the focus was slightly different. The focus was more on an actual studio itself. So they had all of that pro-level equipment in the place already, and it was then teaching people how to use that. And I think that's kind of helped through all the sort of the development and the expansion to focus on giving students access to something of real quality that they would experience in the industry, rather than just sort of introducing the tools at a certain level and them never really seeing that quality that you can get when you do work with the really nice gear, you know. When I was training, I was lucky enough to use some 1031s, which were sort of in one of my favourite studios at the place I was studying. When comparing them with the other monitors that they had there was just a different level, you know, just a different class of what you could hear, you know, and everything about them was just nicer than the others. When we set up our main lecture theatre with a 5.1 Genelec system, it's a real flagship listening room. It's a really, really nice space just to listen to music in. I think it was kind of a natural progression to move those into the studios as well and start using Genelecs in the studios. One of the nice things about the 8351s is that because of the sort of the technology that's inside them, it means we can literally move them into any space without that real niggly problems that you get normally with taking monitors into different spaces, having to set them up, having to sort of move them around to get them all calibrated. You can pretty much just put them where you want them to be and they do the rest, which is an absolute godsend for a place like this, where you basically, you have to normally spend a lot of time setting these things up to make them sound right. Once you've set things up, the sort of what you need to do in terms of the how the speakers are set up is very different to a normal stereo system to a surround system. So obviously having the ability to again have that calibration and all of that sorted out for you, and it means making those decisions is much more straightforward, because you don't have to put a week aside in terms of technician time to get the room set up and calibrated. It's literally, you know, it's something that they can do in a few hours. The three-way designs really sort of intrigued me, but obviously it makes a lot of sense because a lot of manufacturers, when they're doing three-way systems, the problem they have is aligning that mid and tweeter driver and keeping them sort of the phase alignment. So obviously it's a very effective way of maintaining that aspect of it. The advantage of these obviously is we can orientate them any way, whichever works better for positioning them, you know, and that might seem like a really small trivial thing, but actually it can become quite significant, again, especially if we want to use them as reference monitors and move them around into different spaces. When we're looking at especially sort of smaller spaces that often we are in education, it's nice to be able to have something that you don't need to have a massive huge set of stands for them, you know. You can get them in pretty much a similar sort of footprint as you would get any other near fields in. You can push them quite hard as well without them starting to give off the saturation distortion artifacts that you might get traditionally if you push the speaker that size as far as you might push these.